All right, we'll see if that works. Is anything? Yes, everything's working. Hello, everyone. Hello. My name is Fiona, and this is Too Long Didn't Read TTRPGs. I also use she, her pronouns. Oh, it's all over the place today. This is a TTRPG accountability stream in which I, Fiona, will read a TTRPG that's caught my eye, either from the bookshelf of doom or from the Google Drive of mystery. Thank you so much. Oh, visual description. I am a white woman with lots of spots on her. Oh, it's been an acne day. And I look dreadful, but I was like, no, gotta do this, because as someone has rightly said in the chat, I can't believe this is really happening. Me neither. It's been quite the week. I hope everyone is doing well. Ooh, the music is a little loud for me. Let me turn it down a little bit for myself, but there we go. Just a tad. How are we all doing, friends? Did everyone have good weekends? I certainly did. I was busy doing lots of fun social things, which is nice, and outdoors. Outdoors is great. Would highly recommend. But also, last week turned out to be really busy. And it was one of those things where I was like, I could try and squeeze in this particular stream at the usual time on Wednesday, or I could push it a little bit. And then I kept pushing it, and I was like, damn it, it's going to have to be Monday. Yeah, gosh, it's always the way, isn't it? I'm like, I'm not that popular, I promise. It's just me trying to get a lot of work done and make sure that I finish a good time, so I'm not doing too much of this stuff into the evenings. But I hope everyone is well, and I need to sort out Nightbot. It doesn't put all the stuff onto YouTube, which is annoying. But anyway, friends, let's just go straight into it, shall we? No more dilly-dallying, but I hope you're well wherever you are, whether you're watching this live or you're doing this, or you're watching the VOD. Oh, I did say I was going to do a visual description, and I didn't even bother to do it really. So, like, white woman, hair back in a ponytail, a little bit spotty today, wearing a black a D&D hoodie. I don't know if anyone can see the sort of, it's like a mimic in there somewhere. And yeah, this is Too Long Didn't Read, which I love. Got to break up the routine now and then, in my opinion. Well, that is very kind of you. However, I keep breaking up the routine in various different ways. But it's all good fun, really. So yes, today, friends, we're going to look at a TTRPG. A side character quest pod says, just listen to an interview with the creator yesterday. Oh, fantastic. Well, maybe you know a little bit more about it than I do. So today, friends, we're looking at a TTRPG called Realis. I believe that's how you pronounce it, although, you know me, I read something and it completely changes it when you speak it out loud. So Realis is a TTRPG that's caught my eye primarily because of two articles that came up on the Rascal, which I will show and make sure I do a link to them as well. But it is a game, one of diceless storytelling, where characters deploy powerful sentences, capital S there, which are rewritten over the course of their saga. It is a place, a cursed orbital sphere of 1,000 mystical moons, filled with mystery, magic, and impossible technology. As a place, Realis is a setting for moon-hopping adventure, arcane discovery, fatal conflict, meditations on the ever-changing nature of self, society, and history. So there you go. So I know very little about it, other than I believe it uses poetry in some way as part of its sort of main game mechanics. The author is one Austin Walker, who I know is, I don't want to say a big deal in TTRPG space, but has done a lot of TTRPG related things. I believe they are like a producer of some sort. They definitely ran, I think, on the One Shot podcast, the Going Rogue actual play that's going out just now, so I'd highly recommend checking that out because it's pretty good. And yeah, it's one of those things where it caught my eye because of these articles that came out. And also, I'll be honest, I'm not someone that, I like poetry as an RPG. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, let's go straight into it, shall we? I'm just going to move over. Oh, well, I'll do the disclaimers first, as always. So one, I'm not a game designer in any way, shape or form. I read a lot of games. I run a lot of games. And I'll try and look at games that are unusual and catch my eye. Maybe games that I wouldn't necessarily play myself. I'm like, oh, well, this is in the zeitgeist. What is it that makes them tick? How can we get those mechanics or those ideas into other stories? So that's what I'm trying to look at first and foremost. But as I said, I'm not a game designer, and especially because I don't really play these games. I read through them, which I think is always important to, it's okay to read through them, and not all of us have the privilege of having a group who would like to test these games with and explore these stories. I think that's a very rich resource, unfortunately, not all of us have access to easily. So, bear that in mind, that if I'm giving it a critique of some sort that is purely my opinion on stuff, doesn't mean there's any salt or weight behind it. Number 2 is I've not been sponsored by Austin Walker, who's obviously did a game design of this game, or the publisher Possible World Games, to look at this RPG. Like I said, I've sort of discovered it through reading some Rascal articles, and I was like, oh, it sounds interesting. So I've not been sponsored anyway, and I do this purely because I enjoy reading through RPGs and like to just chat about my thoughts on the internet, because my partner doesn't want to put up with it anymore. And finally, content warnings. I don't know is the answer. I don't know what kind of game this is at all. I mean, like with all games, there could be possible sources of tension and drama. They said conflict, fatal conflict, it said there, but other than that, I'm not entirely sure. I assume this is going to be sci-fi in some way, but I genuinely don't know. So I'll make sure to put up content warnings, or at least verbally say them if they come up, or if any topics come up. But I will I'll say that out loud, but if you need to, please take a moment to step away from the screen. That'll be absolutely fine. I give you permission to do so. All right, friends, let's get away from big Fiona face with lots of spots to tiny Fiona face with a few spots still. Dear, oh dear. And that is the cover. That's not what I wanted to look at first. Let me go to my sources. And of course, that has not worked for any reason. There we go. So let's go. So these are the 2 articles I wanted to show. So this is the one that came up. Thomas Emmanuel, who is a new contributor to Rascal. They wrote a really interesting article on it, so I highly recommend it. And all of their work, I will say, is pretty good. At least food for thought. It might not be to your taste. They are often quite long articles, I will say. But equally, it's sort of, so that was Thomas's most recent read of it. It's about, like I said, May 12th, so last month. But this is one that Chase did, one of the other Rascal writers. So yeah, just the traditional character sheets for prose poetry. How interesting. And so it goes on to a little bit there as well. And yeah, so the main thing to note realistically is that this physical book is coming out later on this year or early 2026, but the Ashcan version of it, so effectively this complete rule set, is available on itch. So that's where you can get it from, and that's where the link in the chat should be. Let me just find it. A little salty critique towards Renegade Games I've seen on your Discord, but that was off the record. Hey, look, Renegade Games, look, their website is terrible, and also their books like have good ideas and good vibes, and need a copy editor so much so, and as a better layout person. Anyway, so this is where you can get Realis. Even though it's an Ashcan, I will say often Ashcans have this assumption that, they're going to be free, they're going to be a lot of things. This is $15 to download, which I don't think is too bad for the amount of stuff you get from it. It's roughly, I think off the top of my head, it was like, let me double check, it's like over 100 pages, 132 pages. So that's pretty good. And you get quite a lot for it. So if you see here, 20 playable classes across 9 spheres. I think these are settings. Got loads of NPC classes. Oh, interesting. Even more examples of any more PCs. So like customizable. We've got these factions. Like I said, original art. So it even has art in it as well. So pretty good. So again, I'm not entirely sure if it is still an Ashcan. I mean, it came out sort of fairly recently. So there you go. And I will say again, I like the use of the itch store. Again, this is why we look at where the itch is. So why we look at where the PDF of these games are, where you can find it. So we want to see what the context around it is. So what, how does it sell to us, someone who might not have heard about it, might have just read about it on a news article. So not only do we have this gorgeous art behind this gorgeous banner behind it, we also have there's a play stream, which it looks like they did it on the, I want to say, that looks like the Fun Friday Night stream. I don't know where that's from. I'll double check that maybe later. We also get the actual cover image here, which looks gorgeous. I love the colours of it, because normally anything like this, if it was in black and white, I'd find it really overwhelming, but I love almost like the Van Gogh sort of Starry Night vibe it's got to it here. And then Realis is on the text set in black and red. And there's some example of pages as well. So it looks pretty well formed, if it laid out and stuff like that. So yeah, I just wonder why maybe it's going to change a little bit there. So and digital and GM sheets are here. So I'll make sure I download. Oh, look at that! Sorry, brain has gone. It is a it is done like that. Great. It's a character keeper. Oh, look at that! How great is that? It's actually on Google Sheets. Amazing. Well, I'll keep that to one side then. Come back to me. Come back to me. That's pretty neat. Like that a lot. So let's make sure I have that open as well. Original art. And we've got it in different versions as well. Single page, spread, and printer-friendly PDFs. Nice. You can get them here as well. Great. Let's read through the marketing copy as well to make sure like what it is that we're looking at. Because again, I still don't know what it is. All right. Get the chat so I can see it. There we go. So we've said this sort of bit at the top, the place, the game, and as a place. It has an uncanny solar system where 1,000 satellites orbit a massive incandescent planet. The titular Realis, from which only the saint-like radiant have ever returned. Above it, the corpse sun roils and emits its final dregs of light, and below the great void churns, eager to swallow anything that errs too near. And between, across the 1,000 moons, the great powers squabble, scheme, and skirmish. Ooh, squabble, scheme, skirmish. Like that. As a game, Realis is a set of rules that shapes conversation into an engine for collaborative storytelling. You will tell the story of a band of protagonists who use malleable class sentences. So you see what I mean there? It's capitalised. Useful ephemera and the raw power of their dreams to explore, love, fight, worship, and unfold their stories across the 1,000 moons. Realis is designed to explore how these characters, which begin iconic and archetypal, become increasingly specific over the length of a story. And it is interested in the power and vulnerability present in such a transformation. Or present, not present. Present. Most importantly, simply by playing the game, exploring the moons, and defining your own character through play, you will make Realist yours. I like that. Nice bold at the end. Interesting. I still don't know what this game is. But we've got an idea of like, okay, so we've got a place, so like what the setting is. So it must be sci-fi in some sort. But realistically, a band of protagonists, what is that? Who are these protagonists? Interesting. Oh, hello. I can't actually hear you. I just wanted to pop and say that. Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Nice to see you. Penitent Knight, nice to see you. Cool. All right. And yeah, so what's good about it, in a sense, we've got an idea of like a bit of a copy, which I think is quite well written. We also have some various streams we can look at as well. So we want to see how it's played. And we've got the digital character and GM sheets here. Brilliant. And some examples as well. Yeah. And also we've got some comments here, which we can look at in a second as well. $15, I don't think is that expensive, to be honest with you. And I think maybe it will go up in price once they've got a complete version. It'd be interesting to see. Is there any development log? There was a development log week 2 ages ago, back in February. Not so much now, so interesting. Also, I think Realis is cool as heck. Oh, interesting. So again, like I said, I don't know. It's almost like word of mouth. People think it's a really cool thing. So we will find out. All right. Well, friends, let's just dive right in, shall we? And get up the PDF. So, and I'll zoom out a little bit. So like I said, this is about 132 pages. We won't... Oh, this is where my... we won't enable scrolling. There we go. I just want to look at it like this. I was going to say, so we might not look at everything today. I want to get a good sense of what this game is. Oh, interesting. I said that's changed. That doesn't feel like the actual cover at all. Maybe I've just missed something. Let me have a look. Oh no, I have. I thought there was more stuff to that cover there. But yeah, as I said, we're going to go through as much as we can in the hour and a half I've sort of laid aside for today, because yeah, gotta get moving on stuff. So yeah, first of all, let's describe the cover, because currently there is not a any alt text, which is a shame. But again, maybe this will be added later on. So let's talk about the cover. So it has it's black background with a gorgeous sort of like drawing. Like I said, I described it as almost like the Starry Night-esque type image. We've got like presumably moons, circular sort of spaces where there's like, we can always see almost like portals into different places, and we've got like oranges and blacks and reds, like, and all these different people. It looks like very much a fantasy cover, and around it it's sort of in a square shape, and it says, "I always argue the powerful. I'm always frightened those who," and it's like almost like written in some way. So that's quite interesting. And then at the bottom it says realist in red and black. And like I quite like the way the font is of it. Oh, let me zoom out a bit so people can see it. My only issue, and I always say this every time, put your name on the cover. I know it sounds really silly, but like what a cracking image, but we don't know who written it or anything like that. I know it's going to be an inside cover, but if it's taken... I know, fancy hours. If it's taken out of context, I always think you should have, like, even if it says Possible World Games, the publisher on it or something, I think just always have it somewhere. Even if it's small, I think you should always have it. All right, let me move in a little bit and we'll do scrolling so people can actually see. I'll zoom in. So there's the front cover, the inside cover. We've got the name of it, Austin Walker, and a couple of got the things there. I will say Possible Worlds, that does link to the actual website. There's not much on the website. I did have a little check beforehand. Didn't seem to be very much. And then we go straight into the table of contents, which looks very clean and clean and sleek and sort of straightforward. So we've got an introduction to what this game is. We've got how do we play it, conversations on conflict, means in details, presumably the little elements we've got, beyond the basics, classes, running the game itself, and then afterward, honest translation and playtesting bands. Playtesting bands. So what's that? We've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we've got 10 chapters in total. If we can get through to the end, maybe about 55, 56 pages in, I think that'll be enough for us, perhaps. Maybe beyond the basics if we've got time. So that's good. Are you all right there, down there, Fancy Alice? She just bit my foot earlier, so I'm not the best pleased with her. All right. So, let's zoom in a little bit. Oh, music is quite low now. I can't bloody win. There we go. Alright, so this universe prizes passivity, except after wisdom gained, recognizes friendship's strength but rewards solitary achievement, shifts in scope and scale according to the needs of the story or the whims of its tellers, demands honesty in consequences but care at the table. It's is an inverted twilight mirage, psychedelic space and sword and sorcery, mumbling mystics at the castle's observatory, meteors cleaved clean with broadswords, and 1,000 moons in fatal orbit, with an unreachable world called Realist. I'm going to turn up the music slightly. I like having the poetry in beginning. That's quite fun. Maybe I would... do it like that. That took it down for me. There we go. Yeah, maybe I'd read that out loud to my players. Oh, how beautiful is that image there? It's almost like a blue... I want to say like a big wave, almost like water, but at the top here, we see almost like a planet and various moons, so it feels like this blue wave in space, some sort of like, I would say, not spiritual, sort of solar event happening. It's pretty nice. Just a shame there's no alt text to explain what it is. Oh, and instantly we've got a play example here, which, again, I try not to read through, because I don't want to... Again, I might get it as we go. But it says the mirror orbed. We've got a GM, we've got a person called Ewan and Casey. And they're playing, respectively, Hansen, he, him, and Adarak, she, they. Interesting. Oh, no, what's interesting is that you got this line to indicate that it is a play example. We've got the key players in bold at the top, which is nice. I would say I'm always a big fan of like putting these ones, like the names of the different players, maybe in a different color, perhaps. Obviously, being mindful of like colorblind issues, perhaps. But also, like, interesting, got like the sentence, the sort of like an element here in red, presumably meaning that this is a game mechanic that's been used. It's also one page, this play example, which is pretty good. So it says here, an introduction to Realis. What is Realis? Realis is both a place, a cursed orbit sphere of 1,000 mystical moons, and a game, one of collective storytelling in a world of mystery, magic, and impossible technology. And as a place, Realis is a setting for moon-hopping adventure, arcane discovery, fatal conflict, and meditations on the ever-changing nature of self, society, and history. It is an uncanny solar system where 1,000 satellites orbit a massive incandescent planet, the titular Realis, from which only the saint-like radiant have ever returned. Above it all, the corpse sun roils and emits its final dregs of light, whilst the great void churns below, eager to swallow anything that errs too near. Again, I like how it's like these elements are in bold to indicate like this is important, this is important. Some of the 1,000 moons are claimed by dozens of ever-squabbling petty baronies of the Leo it's almost certainty, right? I want to say certainty. Suzertainty? Leo Suzertainty. Others have been conquered by the, oh my goodness, locustal fleets of imperial empress, or have been forcibly converted by the hypocritical and violent theocrats of the Venerant Sea, SEE. More obscure factions, like the secretive scholars of the Versed Lyceum, or the esoterics of the I'm not going to be able to pronounce these words at all. Geonostic. Keep to the shadows. A danger, since the shadows are home to ill worms, ghastly sovereigns, and the drift, a realm of raw emotion and unhinged desire. Ooh, that sounds like a great place to like explore stories. And everywhere, moonfolk find a way forward, claiming small joys and working towards some sort of tomorrow. You can read more about the moons of Realis on page 78, but know this: everything contained within these pages is a limited perspective, written by words rights of our particular time, Eola 233. Okay. And place aboard the Mastery Printery along the outer orbit's reach. Whilst we are eager to tell you about the people and places of Realis, our words are at all times only suggestions for how and why and where you might tell our story or your story. Find your own names, use your own words, and discard ours when they scrape or fry. Nice. Okay. So far, I'm interested. I always like that sort of perspective of like, we have found this, reframing the rules through like a perspective of a manuscript, and like, here's how we telling it as us, people of this world. Feels like almost like a prompt in some way. I like that a lot. And we've got like on the side here, we've got like a little column to the left that normally indicates like a game designer's thoughts, or even like developmental sort of diary. So let's have a read of those. I'll zoom in a little bit more. I realise it's a little bit far out. So just as details of this game's backdrop, character, locations, factions, and so on were penned by our Grand Order, so too have the game rules on which you're about to read. However, whilst information on the moons and their inhabitants is meant to capture our particular historic moment, our game's design intends to aim to miniaturize the absolute, oh my goodness, Narasolic. I don't even know. Is that a word? I'm going to look that up right now. I don't know if that's a word. Nara Solek. Can't even spell. No, I think that's just a word they've made for the game. Very cool. I was just like, I've never heard it. To which Realist's history is itself leashed. Ours is an orbital sphere driven by the structure, convention, and momentum of the story. Indeed, the only true heretics of Realis are those who espouse that process is more important than form. The editors of this volume demand we limit our words regarding the so-called, oh my god, mechanica logica and their hedonist philosophy. More dreadful it is than any empest, queen, commander, any unspoken of the drift, or any politician, whether Leo or Kiliad in persuasion. Our advice: let your curiosity be sated by what slim details have been included in this text, and know that danger treads whenever any openly wear the cloak of amorality and indifference. Again, I'm very much the prose of this, the writing of it is really, I like it a lot. I'm very engaged with it, but I will say my old enemy pronunciations, and now they've got words that obviously they've made or developed for this game, which is really cool. I hope to goodness that they put in like a pronunciation guide to some of the, like, again, these are very cool, like in keeping with the sort of the sci-fi. It feels very much like Ancillary Justice, if anyone's read those books. Kind of feels like that to me. Side character quest pod. Oh, hello, friend. In the interview I listened to, the author said that the game is meant to reflect the perspective of the word writes, but said they like to write other games from other perspectives, but in the same setting. Norstic. Play on Norstic. Thank you. Very much appreciate it. Re-Norstic, then, up here. Interesting. So that's interesting that if they were going to write other games from other perspectives in the same game setting, it feels then very much like what Lunar Shadow Designs does. Craig Duffy, who wrote Signal to Noise, which was like an epistolary game in the setting of the sort of space opera that they had, but then Hopes and Dreams of Orbital Bound, which is like a different kind of game, but in still the same sort of setting. So yeah, interesting. So as a game, Realis is a set of rules that shapes conversation into an engine for collaborative storytelling. You will tell the story of a band of protagonists called player characters. We've got wordsmiths for the people who are writing the book, surely. Surely we should have some cool words for our characters, our protagonists, who use powerful sentences as they explore, love, fight, worship, and unfold their stories across the 1,000 moons. Realist is designed to explore how these characters, who begin iconic and archetypal, become increasingly specific over the length of a story, and it is interested in the power and vulnerability present in such a transformation. Whilst most players will take the control of a single member of the band, one player will be dedicated to playing as the games master, a combination of facilitator, narrative guide, and reliable wall for bouncing ideas off of, promising to return them to you with exciting spins. But everyone who plays Realis is a storyteller. Though there are different roles in play, everyone's first duty is to enter into good faith collaboration with everyone else at the table. So to play Realist, you need paper, writing implements, and one small object per player. A coin, a paperclip, a pewter figure. Anything that you have that could serve as a token will work, but choose something with meaning. Or, if you choose something meaningless, do so that your indifference is itself intentional. Thus, whilst the details of our moons may differ from those you know in your era, in all eras things flow from the clashing of ideal forms, like the blocks of pure stone cracking and chiselling each other until figures emerge. We are confident that this text is amongst the rarest and most transcendent works. Okay. So, what is a sentence? So, the central unit of Realis is the sentence, in bold there. And what I'd say, again, because I've not visually described it, sorry, is that there's no images so far. It is just pure text documents. But I think so far the layout, let's talk about the layout quickly before I move on. So on the whole, it is mostly like one column that is wide enough to cover the sense. And then we've got these sort of, like those bits where I'm talking about the wordsmiths, they're in like the sort of side columns, almost like as if the designer is having it is like footnotes or sort of like commentary throughout. And then we've gone just the what is a sentence is gone into two columns. But I don't again the dreaded two columns. Talk about Renegade Games, their dreaded three columns in books. This so far seems very easy to read off the cuff. Bearing in mind I am terrible at pronunciations at the best of times, and even saying Realis different ways a lot of the time as well. It's very easy to read, and it's quite easy on the eye as well. We've got some text on this page that's in red as well, which again, it might be difficult if you have red-green colour blindness perhaps. But we've also got stuff in bold and in bullet points as well, so it feels easy to read, or at least it's meant to emphasise stuff, but it's already emphasised maybe by the layout that we're in here. I don't know. So, sentence. We could use many pretty words to describe sentences, but we should explain in clear language what they are and what they represent. So in Realis, people, places, organisations and other keen objects are defined by sets of descriptive sentences. Nearly anything that is important to the story could have a set of sentences available to it. Each sentence is a declarative statement of its owner's unique capabilities. The majority of sentences are written with the adverb always, as in the duelists, and then here's an example of it. It says, I always impress those who see me in combat. Sentences vary in breadth and detail, often come into conflict and change over time, becoming both more limited and yet more powerful. More details on the types of sentences, how they interact, and what causes them to change can be found further on in this chapter. For now, here's a brief overview of terms and ideas you'll encounter. Do not worry about having a complete understanding of these yet. We aim to only cultivate familiarity and excise bewilderment. Again, I quite like how it's written. It doesn't feel too patronising. It feels like it's in this character's tone of this wordsmith writing, right? That's what it feels like. I'm not entirely sure, like, is this supposed to be a historical document? Like, it doesn't have too much in terms of that sort of, like, embedding. But I feel like the tone that the person's writing to me, that the game designer's written, feels very genuine, very, like, kind, really. And not, again, it's like, don't worry about it, we'll come to it. You know, I'm explaining it as we go. And it feels very gentle. But also I think the prose of it is quite good as well. It's flowery in places, but it's not overly so. You know, it's not. It feels very practical, but with meaning. Every word has been picked with intent. So, goes into bullet points here. Sentences, in bold, are the most common type of means, which is also in bold. Mechanisms to resolve conflict or uncertainty. Every class, which is also in bold, begins with a set of 4 unique sentences, which serve as what might be called skills, abilities, or moves in other storytelling games. It then says, all sentences have a level of reality called a rank. Reality determines how effective a sentence is in conflict with another sentence. Generally speaking, low-rank sentences are broader, but weaker than high-rank sentences. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. In order to easily and quickly reference the rank of a sentence at reality that a sentence is at, we mark them with a plus and a number, as in a +0 sentence or a +1 sentence. The highest rank a sentence can be is realised. Is a +3. And then we've got some examples. Oh, and it's like the same example but more specific. I like that. So it starts off with a +0 because I always wear the right outfit. That's very broad. It's very weak, right? Because it's just like, okay, great. It can apply to most situations. Then it goes to +1. It says, I always wear the right outfit during important events. So it narrows that sort of field. +2, I always wear the right outfit during important events, which I was invited to. And finally, +3, I always wear the right outfits during important events, which a friend invited me to. Whenever a person, or whenever anyone or anything wants to use a sentence to overcome an obstacle or to resolve the uncertain, they are called an anchor. Oh, not an anchor, an actor. Anyone or anything trying to stop their attempt, whether they are the direct target of that action or only trying to disrupt it, is called a counter actor, which we often abbreviate to counter. So it's just trying to assign these roles when it comes into sort of like conflict. It's like almost like you are the proactive person. This is the reactive person. Okay. When two sentences are in conflict, whichever one is more real prevails. When two equally real sentences come into conflict, the counter sentence wins. Whenever the counter actor wins a conflict, the actor sentence is temporarily countered and cannot be used again for the length of the scene. After a class sentence has been countered 3 times, its owner may modify it by adding a new limiting condition to its text and then increasing its reality by 1, and this process is called realization. In addition to class sentences, players begin with a dream, bonds, a banned sentence, and a token. Sentences are not limited to player characters. The factions and NPCs controlled by the gamemaster have their own sentences. Faction and NPC sentences do not all begin at +0, so be wary in your travels. There are also moon sentences, which reflect on the unique capabilities of various unaffiliated peoples and locations of Realis. GMs can use moon sentences whenever appropriate, and a player can discharge their token to use one as a means. What? Use presumably a moon sentence as a means. That was a common type of means. So like to resolve something. Okay, I think I get that. These other types of sentences and their distinct rules will be detailed in the next chapter. But for now, here's some examples of what they might look like. So we've got some examples here of a moon sentence, a banned sentence, and ephemera. So here we've got +0 for the moon sentence. Yazarin corpses always return twice. What a terrifying sentence. That's a +0. The band sentence, so this is the group that our players will be playing. So it says the band of the caribou always wins against a smaller opponent. That's a +1. And then the ephemera sentence here is a +2. The Book of Lies always reveals the weakness of those who abuse their power. And then it says, after a +3 sentence is counted 3 times, it is retired. Once all of a character's 4 class sentences retire, so do they. And then it says, a final note. To begin with, all the sentences in this game have been written by us, the word writes, drawing on our own experience inside of and studying Realis. But as you play, in fact, even now as you read this, you can make them yours. And then in sort of block different sort of font it says, this is an act of magic. So that's kind of it in terms of rules. I'm guessing obviously we'll go into more detail later, but it's a diceless just storytelling game where again you're just working out, like, you have these 4 sentences about your character. Presumably they all start at +0, and when they get counted 3 times they'll be modified so that you get them more and more precise until eventually you get counted 3 times at level 3. Or the final sort of level here, and then that's retired. And once all of your class sentences are retired, then your character's retired as well. Okay, straightforward enough. Gosh, that's a beautiful image, isn't it? Let me look at that image there. So we saw this a little bit when we were looking at the marketing copy. We have a very beautiful like image of this sort of like I'm going to call it Arc de Triomphe. It's not the Arc de Triomphe, but that sort of like building of sort of like a big archway, and it's covered in these beautiful pink leaves and trees. And we see here there's like 2 big sort of, I want to say like eagle-like, bird-like statues, and it's clearly some sort of like sci-fi planet, because in the sky we can see like 2 spaceships zooming past, but like everything is like brick and old here. And you see on the ground, we have like people wandering up the steps into this arc, probably meeting and talking. And we sort of see two people next to a standard with a banner on it looking out. They look like they're dressed in sort of like, I want to say medieval gear. So yeah, very interesting. It's a really lovely, the colours of it are gorgeous. Oh, you know what it is? Hang on. I think these images... So we've got the image here of that sort of space thing before. And then it says at the top here, it says the mirrored orbed. I think that's the name of the planet or the moon, right? They had one here at the bottom. Sorry, the top of the next page after that image. And it was Cereus? Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. I think that's the name of the place, the name of the moon. Alright, getting on to playing Realis. So it says Session 0. So before you begin exploring the Thousand Moons and weaving your own stories, it's important to set time aside to set the tonal and content expectations, determining your game and the campaign's focus, creating characters and form your band. We colloquially call this Session 0. This process has a number of important steps to move through, but it's also an opportunity for discussion, world building, and collaborative creation. Chat about the overarching premise of your story, discuss what aspects of Realis you're excited about, float ideas for different types of bands. In short, Session 0 isn't just a chore you have to do before you play, it is play. What a great way to sum it up. Because I know some people, myself included, sometimes like, oh god, Session 0. I just, sometimes there's a lot of important admin that you have to do before you get in. Oh no, you think my captions are broken. Oh, it's probably gone to sleep. 1 second. Let me try that again. I didn't ask for that. I asked for this one. Let's try that. There you go. Thanks for noticing that. Sometimes it goes to sleep without me noticing, so I appreciate that. It must have been because I did something else. Hopefully it wasn't gone for too long. All right. So, as I was saying, in short, Session 0 is not just a chore you have to do before you play, it is play. I think that's such a good way of phrasing it. As we stated above, Realis contains multitudes. It can support stories of bright and heartfelt heroism, but it can also be a stage for melancholy, the uncertain, the brutal, or the desperate to play out. The Thousand Moons are home to daring space captains, corrupt clerics, warm-hearted torturers, and the utterly inhumane. Ensure that everyone at the table has an open and honest conversation about what sorts of stories and characters and content they would want to explore at the table before play. Whilst the rules governing play may gesture at strictness, they are at all times subservient to the comfort and pleasure of those at the table. At the beginning of play, we suggest using the tools you are comfortable with to discuss what sorts of stories you are excited to tell and which ones you'd like to avoid. One such tool, which reflects the same logic as Realis is operated on, is the foundation sentences. Oh, that's pretty cool. So already having like a safety tool or a way to start Session 0 that's involving the same sort of mechanics as in play, that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. And I'll come to the end of this, I just want to read what it says here on the side. So it says, when your group collaborates in the creation of the foundation sentences during Session 0, it is with the trust that everyone at the table, including the GM, will abide by and pursue them as appropriate. Whilst maintaining a safe environment is crucial, this isn't only about a rule of avoidance. This isn't only a rule about avoidance. You should always be actively trying to find ways to put a spotlight on concepts that the table has flagged as interesting. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's a really good way of putting it. So it says here, as a group, discuss and complete the following prompts, writing as many foundational sentences as you feel you need to. So here we have, on the left-hand side, in red, and in italics we have our story always, our story never, our story will, but only with the distance and care include. Okay. It cut out when you started talking about the Session 0, so not long. Okay, great. Well, thanks for keeping an eye on that. I appreciate it. So these foundation sentences should serve both as directive and guardrail. By and large, they work passively as a reminder not only for your group's agreed upon fictional limits, but also of your particular, even peculiar interests. Foundation sentences are more powerful than even dreams. They are on the loom on which the skin is pulled. They may always be referenced to halt play, open a conversation, or redirect the action. It is important to understand, however, that while these tools like this one are useful, they are not sufficient for play. At all times, the personhood of those at the table must be respected and upheld. This does not mean that you should not explore dark or difficult subject matter, only that you ensure that this table with this group is the right time and place to do so. After a while, you may be telling tales of the iniquitous, it is you who employs a sentence, plays a token, or invokes a dream. However, Fooligan, your anti-hero's cloak, it is they and not you who must wear it. Those are some incredible words, which I am now going to look up and make sure, A, they exist. I am sure they do. Pernicus, which is having a harmful effect. And then iniquous is the other one. Iniquitous, grossly unfair and morally wrong. Okay, and then where's the other word? Let's see this one. See, it's learning how I learn these words well. Fulingnigus, sooty, and dusky. Ah, there you go. And off special note, Realis explores the way the self changes over time, often due to perceived failures, outside influence, or the simple effect of time. These can be difficult topics and should be handled with care, especially when it comes to the redefining of a character's sentences. At the same time, being able to change who you are, how you are perceived, and what drives you can be liberatory, I think. We believe that telling stories in both modes can be rewarding, and compassion should be taken when playing in either. Okay, so let's get on to character creation then. So it says here, before or during session 0, players should split through the classes chapter of this book, beginning on page 81, and discuss which classes are most interested in them, and choose which they will play for the story. Classes in Realis begin as broad, clear archetypes. Each consists of a series of sentences which are used to overcome certain situations. Over the course of play, as sentences change, these archetypal classes become increasingly personalised and unique to your specific game, or character. Okay, so it says here. Pull something out of my hair. That was horrible. So it begins with 4 class sentences. So these are starting sentences that define a character's unique attributes and are used to determine the outcome of certain situations. Read more about it on page 31. 2 bond sentences. These describe the state of a relationship between player characters and may be used like regular sentences in play. Read more about them later on. The 1 dream sentence. I did think it said I dream sentence. A dream is a special, single-use, extremely powerful sentence that all player characters begin with, representing some deeply held goal or ideal. Then it says 1 token. So every player has 1 token, which can either be charged or discharged. All tokens begin charged, and a charged token can be spent for 1 of 3 effects. For the length of the current conflict, add a +1 reality to your chosen means, so the sentences. Use an established moon sentence as a means, and if a slot is available on the current moon sheet, add a new +0 moon sentence representing some capacity or characteristic of the moon in question. If you're currently in conflict, you may use this new moon sentence as a means. And then finally it says one impulse. Excuse me. All classes belong to one of the 9 spheres, categories organised around a shared impulse. So for example, it says here, the sphere of sorceries respond to a mundane problem with magical means. Certain places, like many of Realis' moons, may offer their own impulse, like Yazarin's unmake something important to you. Characters who use the sentence in pursuit of an impulse recharge their token immediately. But pursuing an impulse is also valuable in and of itself, because they are relatable. They are a reliable method of creating drama and keeping the story moving. Read more about it later. Interesting. Okay. So I like it. So you've got the setting stuff for these 9 spheres. Okay, I don't think we're going to get to it today, unfortunately, but it's interesting. One additional resource that the characters may encounter in play is ephemera, which represents special equipment, powerful relics, material allegiances, and other useful, yet temporary, aspects of a character's repertoire. Though some characters begin with equipment represented by class sentences, none begin with ephemera. Read more about it later on. And then in bold here it says, collectively, sentences, bonds, dreams, and ephemera are referred to as means. Tokens affect or allow you to use certain means, but they are not themselves means. So that's like the main mechanics. I seem to remember what it said before. Whilst there are suggested bonds and dreams for every class, players should feel free to write their own bonds and dreams more in line with their own character's backstory or relationships to other player characters. Even if a player writes their own bonds and dreams, though, they must still only have 2 bonds and 1 dream. Many classes have a sentence featuring words bracketed by fleurons? Fleurons? I don't know what a fleuron was. I'm going to check that out instantly. And it gives an example of what it is. It looks like I want to say 2 turnips on their sides, but that's not what it is. Fleurons. That's a great word. Let me try to find it. Fleurons. And it's known as a printer's flower, a typographic element or glyph. Huh. The words bracketed are hallmarks describing some specific item, ability, associate, or other feature that is key to the identity of the class. Whether this is a unique weapon, a distinct vehicle, or travelling companion, or something more abstract, take some time during character creation to describe how the hallmark looks and works, and if necessary, give it a name. Beyond this added detail, the sentence functions normally. Okay. Curious. Gives it a little bit more of a flavour, maybe customising it for your particular character. Some other sentences may mention equipment, but feature a more generic claim, like, I've always had the necessary tool to hand. These sorts of statements are intended to be vague and flexible at the start of a campaign, representing the character's bag of tricks or some other similar repository of items or information, though the breadth of these sentences may be restricted through play. Once you choose a class, give your character a name, pronouns, and a light touch of backstory. Talk about your connections to your other character. Talk about connections your characters may have with each other and suggest some other important connections they may have, but don't feel the need to over-explain everything about them. Oh, go away. Sorry, thank you, Nightbot, for sorting that out. A final note here. Do not feel like you need to pick the right class. Find the words which speak to you and follow that magnetic joy. Realis is full of stories. If you're not enjoying or engaging with the character you're playing, then you're always able to change them. If during play you decide you'd rather play as a different character, simply frame a scene showing why your current character is out of frame for a while. Choose a class and introduce your new character. Likewise, if you have a few sessions under your belt and find that the class you chose doesn't fit the character concept you have, consider switching to a new class entirely, altogether even. The priority is always the safety and enjoyment of play. Okay, straightforward enough in terms of creating stuff. Maybe we'll have a look at 1 or 2 classes before we finish today. So it says here, band creation. Whilst players are deciding which class to play as, the group should also discuss the core premise of the story they're about to tell together. The result of this discussion is the creation of a band, a group of characters working together for some common goal, large or small. It's best to start with a small, focused idea. We provided a set of example bands to choose from at the end of this section, but feel free to create your own. Flip through the faction list, which is later on, or a brief introduction to the world of Realis to get some ideas. Once the identity of the band is determined, you need to come up with a single band sentence, a special statement of your group's unique identity and special capacity, especially when unified in action and purpose. Every band sentence begins at a +1 and must always begin with, when we work together, we always... A band sentence can be used once per session, and only when every member of the band agrees that it should be used. Oh, that's interesting. We all have to agree together to use it. All other rules about sentences, including realization, apply as normal. A band sentence can feature a hallmark. If you choose to include one, make sure to mark it properly. So what was it that a hallmark did again? Describing some specific item, ability, associate, or other feature key to that identity. Okay, interesting. You may wait to write the sentence until the very end of session 0 when you have a better idea of how sentences work in general, but try to get something down as early as you can in the campaign. A band sentence is a powerful tool, and like everything else, it can change over time. At any time, at the start or end of a session, or in the middle of play or in between sessions, the players can choose to rewrite their band sentence to reflect changes in the group or the ongoing story. Its rank must remain the same, and rewriting it does not give the band an additional use of the sentence mid-session. Changing a band sentence in this way requires unanimous agreement amongst all the band members. Once in motion, a band has Once in motion, a band has a momentum all of its own, and reining it in requires every hand available. When it comes to creating your band, allow yourself to dream big and follow your most exciting impulses. Whilst Realis is a world driven by conflict and change, those are not concepts uniquely held by any one perspective or genre of story. And then it says, to help illustrate this, consider the following ideas for bands and their sentences. Again, I quite like it. It does feel quite open, and maybe... like I said, I do think it is a sci-fi element to this, but it suggests now that it could be any kind of story, so maybe not the traditional sort of sci-fi that I was sort of thinking of to begin with. So here we've got like 6 examples. We've got a team of researchers digging through the strange mysteries of Realis, and their example here is that when we work together, we always uncover what time has hidden. Oh, that's a good one. A travelling circus, trying to get enough money to escape a backwater world. When we work together, we always impress and delight. Oh, there's one here as well with the hallmark thing with the florons. So it says, a group of smugglers bringing people through war-torn space. And it says, when we work together, we always pilot our Orphean vessel to safety. So that presumably is the actual spaceship they're on. Okay, straightforward enough. And then it says, a pause before play. With characters made, the band created, and a general premise agreed upon, everyone should take a break. A band and GM familiar with the Thousand Moons may need only a small break to organise some thoughts and materials, but we encourage the entire group to take as much time as they need before beginning the play in earnest. Whilst Realis can be a low prep game, a group who has time to sit with the characters, their bonds and the band sentences before crafting an adventure's kick-off will find themselves better prepared as both storytellers and improvisers. And then it says here in the little side column, the particulars of Realis will change from story to story. Some games will focus on the political machinations of, I can see it coming, of the Leo suzerainty or the Gilead Consortium, whilst in others the vast swath of Emptest will have long since obliterated those nations. Many stories will care little for more than one or two major factions, and instead be interested in small-scale stories of its ever-changing protagonists. Okay. I mean, so far, like, it feels very straightforward. Like I said, I like the writing of it. It is very engaging to read. I wonder if it would have been nice probably to have like a play example here about with those other folks creating their story, you know, that we saw in the play example at the beginning. Maybe something here, perhaps. That's the only thing I'd say. But again, it feels almost pointless to have that. Like, I think the writing of it's very good and very straightforward. Realistically, you only need to give this page to players, right? You need 4 class sentences, 2 bond sentences, 1 dream, 1 token, 1 impulse, and then to look at the classes at the back on page 81. So, all right, let's do before starting. Okay. So it says here on the column, it says, there is a place for preparation in Realis. As a GM, you should be ready to answer questions about the game's rules, fill in some basic gaps about the world, and guide other players in doing the same, and attend to the larger structure of a campaign. But this game only works if you let the play guide the story. Excuse me. Create enticing places to explore, intriguing characters to converse with, and momentous situations that spring the band into action. Do not prepare a ready-made, ill-adjustable story. It simply won't be as good as what you create together. And so it gives you, presumably, some general sort of principles to think about before you start playing. So it says here, before you start playing, revisit your foundation sentences. So that session 0 stuff. Sometimes the act of creating a band reminds players of something they'd like to avoid or something they'd like to really encounter. The conversation around what sort of content players are interested in will always be able to be reopened by anyone playing. Then it says gather basic play materials together. You will need writing tools and paper if you're playing together in person, a shared digital document if you're playing remotely, and something to stand in for tokens in either environment. Ideally something with two clear binary states like a coin. Character sheets will be made available in future, but for now a placeholder should include a space for a name, look, pronouns, band name, band sentences, 4 class sentences, 2 bonds, a dream, and a few ephemera, and any space for notes or doodles that you may need. Let's have a look at... Find the character sheet. I had it here, didn't I? So let's have a look at that. Okay, and then move this across without moving anything else. So I like it on the first page here. It gives you like what the actions are, etc. But if I go for the character sheet here, there you go. Okay, again, it's simple, it's straightforward, online. I think it's got all the things you need. Oh, I guess it's the uses of like. If I turn this, I've got to duplicate it. That's probably why I can't do anything with it now. It's a view only. But yeah, I think it's clean. It's very easy to read. So yeah, I like that so far. Okay, let's go back to study the band. The first step of preparing for the adventure ahead is to review the character sheets of the members of the band. Speak their sentences aloud. Consider their bonds and their dreams. Let their capacities guide you in preparing the moons and your own cast of characters. Prepare to drive the action forward towards opportunities for their means to be tested. Prepare the moons. Prepare the moons. The GM should then take some time to organise material for the band's first adventure. Ideally, they should collect a small set of moon sentences, faction sentences, and NPC sentences for the area of 1,000 moons where the band's stories will begin. If you're unsure where that might be, consider one of the example moons on page 117, or having further discussion with the band to agree upon the setting, and then how to prepare on there. Okay, straightforward enough. It's like next steps after character creation, what to do. I think that's fair. Oh wow, look at this image. Let me zoom out so people can see it. This one's called Castle Roan, and it's like almost like in a chasm, this image, and it's got we're like looking up at this sort of big castle with a long staircase. God, I would say my thighs are killing me looking at this long staircase down to where we are, and we see people coming down the staircase, and all of them are wearing like armor and cloaks on horses, but they've got like almost like a round viewfinder, orb thing, and also the horses that they're on as well. I should mention some of them are on horses. Also have it so that you can't actually visibly see their face or their eyes. Quite cool. I like it. Really cool imagery. And like at the top on each of like these columns, it looks like there'd be animal faces, but yeah, they too do not have any like facial structures or features. It's just like a solid like circle, like a lens essentially. Very cool. I like that a lot. So, let's see what it says. Oh, I can see a play example down there. Hooray. So, in general, this is another side column thing. The players will have lots of questions about the world of Realis when a campaign begins. Feel free to answer those questions, but make sure to ask some of your own in return, and then incorporate those answers into the world and story. And eventually, players will develop their own agendas. And once that happens, let them guide you towards the excitement. So, conversation and conflict, which is Realis in play. So regardless how your story starts, what follows should be understood as a loosely structured conversation focusing on the exploration, drama, and conflict. Play is driven by the natural flow of descriptions, questions, and answers and clarifications. It is normal for the conversation to bounce between the GM and players, moving around the table to ensure that everyone can participate. Everyone at the table should be attentive in play, not only to ensure that everyone at the table gets a chance to participate, but by being exuberant in collaboration. The Realist is driven by a set of rules helping to resolve interesting conflicts. Much of the play will happen through conversation alone. The GM will describe a situation and ask what the characters do in response, and then the group will determine what happens together. Because of the player characters in Realis are generally capable, when a character is attempting something that is either unopposed or uninteresting, they succeed. There is still plenty of space for interesting embellishment, world building, and characterization in these moments, so use it. And then, there's a play example here of like somebody, I said, can I climb the nearest hill? Do I need a sentence to do that? And they go, no, you're professional, you can do it. Nice. And then it says, eventually, loose conversation will reach a moment where there isn't an obvious agreement on what should happen next. Whenever an actor is opposed or if the stakes are interesting and an outcome is uncertain, the story has reached a point of conflict, requiring the actor to choose a means. And in brackets it says, usually a class sentence, in order to achieve their intent. If there is ever any doubt about whether a situation is uncertain, the table should decide as a group and make a ruling in accordance with the tonal goals and the foundation sentences set in during session 0. The rules governing conflict interact will be laid out in detail throughout the chapter, but they are simple at heart. And then we've got 3 big rules here. It says, whenever something is uncertain or opposed, an actor declares a bold and exciting intent and explains how one of their means will help them achieve it. If there is a counter-actor, also called the counter, they can declare their own means, describing how they want to interfere with the actor. The ranks of these means are revealed and compared. If the actor's means is higher ranked, their intent comes to pass, and they describe what happens. Ooh. There you go. And if the counter's means is equal or higher ranked, so it beats it, okay. The counter wins. The actor does not get their intent, and the actor chosen means cannot be used for the remainder of the scene. Interesting. So, if anything, it's the actor's rank, their sentences, they set the DC. And it's kind of up to the storyteller, the GM, to sort of sort it, to beat it. That's quite interesting. And it says here, when a means is invoked, Realis changes. The only way this game works is to respect and, in fact, to encourage that change. This is another way of saying that the play should always move forward. And then it says, to explain the system in detail, we first need to explain means and intent. Okay, so this is what the means here. And again, maybe this is the sort of thing I would print out a page or refer to this page for the players to look at as we go. So, means in brief. So the means of conflict resolution available to player characters are what class sentences, and these reflect a character's core aptitudes, equipment, and knowledge. Bonds, these represent the relationships between your character and another band member. In a moment of uncertainty, these characters are able to turn to each other and one another for support. We have dreams. Each one of Realist's protagonists is driven by their own singular dream. Once in their life, a player may call upon their dream to succeed at something interesting and uncertain, explaining how that reserve of will helped aid them in this moment. And when they do, they cross the dream off their sheet. Oh, brutal. Tokens. So whilst tokens themselves are not means, their close relation to means they are best suited for this section. They can discharge a player may discharge a charge token in order to temporarily boost the rank of any means by +1. Interesting, didn't know that before. And then alternatively, a charge token may be discharged in either to use an already established moon sentence or to add another +0 sentence to a currently active moon sheet and then use that as a means. A discharge token can be recharged by using a sentence in pursuit of an impulse or by invoking a sentence in a way that draws you into deeper trouble. And you can find more rules on tokens there. Okay, I like this idea with the token and stuff. I think the only thing is it's kind of hidden away in this very big, I would say very clear paragraph. But like, realistically, you discharge your charge token ideally to, like, in the basic level, just to bump up the rank of one of those things. Okay, that's number one. And then you've got this, we knew this about the moon sentences earlier, so that's 3 things here. And then you can recharge it by such an impulse. I think we need to break those paragraphs up and really hone in what they do. But I like it. And then we have ephemera. So ephemera represents special items, training, factional allegiances, not alliances, and other elements of your character's repertoire that develop during play. These can be used just like regular sentences, but do not become more real over time. They are instead consumed slowly with use, eventually losing power. Okay, easy enough. And then it says, as a rule, players can only use one means at a time. So yeah, you can't double up on using like a bond and sentence. You have to choose between them. More now, indeed, you got to be joking me. This won't be replacing Uno at parties anytime soon. I mean, like, I think it's as basic as it can do, to be fair. But I understand why maybe they were talking about it before a little bit. But yeah, I think it would have been nice to have like some actual player sheet on this. Just watching along as I reserve judgment. It's interesting. Yeah, ultimately, I think it's a really interesting concept. And it feels incredibly basic. It's like, I'm sure there are other games that may be similar to this in terms of like sentence and stuff. It feels very much like an outside belonging game where you're using like weak and strong moves perhaps, but even then it's not. And I quite like this idea of like, no, maybe it's maybe I'm thinking of is it the Paragon system which Agon uses, the one where you're like my name and then you have all your achievements, and that's where you go, well, I'm going to justify what we're doing because I've got this and this, because these are my identifiers, right? It's the same thing, except the identifiers here already have like a rank to it. There's no dice rolling. They already have the ranks already added to them. What was the other game I was thinking of when I was thinking of this? Maybe it was just Argon. I can't remember off the top of my head. Okay, and then we'll go into 2 columns. Dramatic intents. In general, players and GMs who are acting should always declare dramatic intent. By dramatic, we mean that actors should describe large situation-changing outcomes. By trying to describe your character's goal in narrative, and not simply physical ways, like for example, it says here, I want to humiliate my rival in front of his peers, is a stronger, more dramatic intention than I want to punch my rival. The act of punching will still be made clear through the means chosen and the description given, but by setting out a stronger narrative intention, everyone at the table will be getting more invested with the outcome of the conflict. Declaring dramatic intents have several additional benefits in playing Realis, including greater flexibility in storytelling. So for example, when trying to rescue your comrades from the corrupt Duke's dungeon with the intent, I want to free the prisoners, may offer many interesting ways to interpret both success and failure. In contrast, smaller, more task-oriented intents like I want to pick the cell's lock limit potential number of outcomes and risks making your capable characters seem incompetent. Playing dramatically also helps maintain the broad scale of play that Realis stories work best with. It is more exciting to, for example, sneak past the Reliquary's entire holy patrol in one fell swoop than it is to tiptoe past one guard at a time. Realis also simply works better when you play in broad dramatic terms instead of creating a new conflict check for each small amount of uncertainty. I think that's fair. Yeah, so you do one check in total rather than like doing for every little bit, which is fair. I guess the one thing I would say to this is that obviously this game, I would say, whilst it is incredibly simple, I wouldn't necessarily run it or play with people who have never played a role-playing game before. But in the sense of like, that's a lie. I think I would, but they'd have to be super encouraged to be creative, right? So I'm thinking like this is a perfect RPG for like writers, for example, or improvisers, rather than people who've never played, don't do that regularly. And what I mean by that is because it requires people to make big swings, to go for it. And I feel sometimes, and certainly recently I felt this as well, is that if players they don't feel safe that you're going to catch them if they fail or fall, then they don't like making big moves. So like this, for example, like that's a great intent. I want to humiliate my rival in front of their peers. That's a big motivation. But maybe they might need to know what the consequences are for that, which I assume the GM would be telling them as well. But I just think that I have really interesting thoughts on dramatic intents there. And then it says unopposed but uncertain. So if an action is neither uncertain nor opposed, it always succeeds. But if an actor is trying to do something that the table believes is fundamentally difficult or risky, the actor must declare intent and means, describing how they draw on their skills, connections, or equipment in order to succeed. Now, intent and means, I feel that's come up somewhere else as well. I remembered what the other system was I was thinking about uses different things to justify why they do stuff. It's the Discworld book. Now, you look at your character sheet and you don't have any skills necessarily, but you'll have like, oh, well, I am this sort of lineage, they're quite big, so I want to use that to intimidate someone. And I think that gives you a +1 or something like that. So anything on your character sheet, it's not stats necessarily, but you can use any part, any facet of your character to justify why you get something. That's what I was thinking of. Intent and means. I feel that's like a world building thing. I can't remember off the top of my head what I'm talking about, but what's new, eh? Okay. So in some cases, you might find that you've encountered an unopposed but uncertain situation in which your character does not have the means to directly overcome. It might seem like a dead end, but remember to break big problems down into smaller ones and always think laterally. You may not have a sentence that helps you directly impact the problem in front of you, but you may be able to use one in another context that helps you make this current challenge less uncertain. You could always attempt a different, less dangerous way forward, remember. Realis is a conversation. Now that is interesting. And I would say, again, always think laterally. Even I struggle with that at the best of times. That's why I would open it up to the table, perhaps, to ask. So I think that's but that's interesting because, often you might be like, well, surely there must be a check for this, right? So, and then it says, for Realis, to shine, players should declare big situation-changing intents. Encourage them to talk in terms of narrative events instead of individual actions. Realis cares about whether you drive the demon from the castle court, not whether any particular sword blow hits, unless, of course, the single most dramatic thing for one final swing is for one final swing to strike true. Okay, and then we've got this play example 3 here, which again I'm not going to look at just now. Okay, and then it says, how are we doing on time? Okay, we'll be okay. Action and counteraction. So in many cases, someone or something willing to oppose an actor as they attempt to use their means. Sometimes this happens immediately and obviously, but other times an actor may need to describe their specific intent before it becomes clear that their action will be opposed. Regardless of how it happened, once an actor's intent and means are made clear, anyone and anything in the scene may attempt to counter it by calling upon their own means. Once both means are declared, the rank of each is revealed and compared. Oh, declared and compared, there you go. The more real one wins. If both sentences are equally real, the counter actor wins, so the defending person wins. If an actor succeeds, they should describe how they overcome their opposition and achieve their intent, and from there the conversation continues as normal. But if the counter succeeds, the actor's chosen means is temporarily countered. Put parentheses around the means on its sheet and treat it as if it had been rewritten in the negative and unable to use for the remainder of the scene. So, for instance, after the duelist's I always win on a one-on-one fight is countered, it effectively becomes I cannot win a one-on-one fight for the remainder of the scene. The more successful the counter actor, whether the GM or a player, must also describe the consequences of that outcome, in brackets, making sure to reconnect the results to the fiction and kicking off the conversation again. If the fiction demands it, an actor's means may be temporarily rewritten in a more limited way. So, for example, the Minotaur's I always burst through the walls could become I cannot burst through the temple's walls, because those are specific walls the band's has reinforced with I always protect others with my shield and shell. That must be some sort of class. I'm gonna look these words up because I do not know what these are. Give me a second. Oh no, that's not what I meant to do. I know this is one of the classes, but I'd love to know. Oh, it is a reptile. It's another word for a reptile. Testudines. Testudines? Interesting. In this case, it would make sure to note down exactly how the sentence has been temporarily rewritten as to avoid any confusion when it is time to reverse or revert the counter. It is important for the counter actor to always state which means they are responding with, even if they know they will lose the conflict. First, because as sentences fail, they grow more powerful. And secondly, because knowing how something was opposed can colour how winning the intent is interpreted in play. That's cool. Yeah, I like that. There can be some ambiguity about who the actor and who the counter-actor is. In general, the actor is whoever is trying to directly change a scene from the status quo as it existed at the start of the scene, or how it was established via conversation and previous conflicts. So, if the band arrives at a village under siege by the Imperial Empest, it is likely that they will be acting when interfering. But on the other hand, if the band was already in the village when the Armada arrived, they would be in the perfect position to counter. Additionally, remember that conflicts between actors and counter-actors, not attackers and targets. Whilst the target of an actor's intent is often the counter actor, there are times when a third party will be the one getting involved. When the Empest shield bugs attempt to use I always travel information to break through a dilapidated city gate, they may find themselves contending with the nearby fantastist. I always misdirect or confuse my foes, even though she was not the target. The rules governing the conflict apply to both PC and GM. That means whenever someone or something acts in a way the PCs might oppose, the GM must announce it, declaring intent and means and allowing PCs to counter. If, for instance, an NPC was attempting to infiltrate the camp of the PC's band of mercenaries using a disguise, the GM should say something like, "You get the sense that something is off today in camp. Can any of you counter the sentence, I always wear the right outfit?" That's cool. So so you're actually being straightforward, like you're being honest, like this is the 15 you need to hit, right? You don't hide it away. I quite like it. And then it says the GM does not need to declare the rank of the means unless someone attempts to counter it, but they're always required to verbalise the sentence in question and to play openly and honestly. Once a PC's means is compared during a conflict, its rank is revealed as normal. Needing to anticipate an opposing sentence's rank and decide on whether to use your token to enhance your own means in response is a key source of tension and drama in Realis. Oh, that is a very long sentence. Players should always feel free to ask for the sentence to be stated again, and discussion between players about how real it may be is always allowed, so that you always have that meta knowledge. Okay. After any means or its rank is revealed, the players are allowed to note it down for future reference. Again, that makes sense. If you know that, we did hit that person thing, it's a 12 or higher, then you do that in D&D, right? So it makes sense to have it here as well. It can be exciting to know that a character in your portfolio has the perfect sentence to counter a player's character's repertoire. But the band is filled with competent travellers, and they rarely walk into a situation totally unaware of what might happen. You should not tell players exactly what sentences you have ready to spring on them, or how real those sentences are, but you should always hint at the danger they're approaching. Once you use a sentence against them, whether as an actor or a counter-actor, whether it succeeds or fails, give it to them, word for word, along with its current rank. You do not need to tell them if you have advanced it after the conflict, though you should remind them regularly that it's possible for your own sentences to change the same ways theirs can. That's fair enough. I just want to pause here for a second because it feels like we've gone away from the wordsmiths stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like at first I was like, it's going to be like them going to tell us how Realis is and stuff like that. And currently it's just all rules, which I have no problem with because the rules are they're very simple, very clear. I think it's written in a very clear way, a very interesting way. Like, I'm actually curious about this quite a bit, but we've kind of lost whatever the wordsmith was at the beginning, and I kind of feel like, so what was the point to that? If you see what I mean, why did we have that there? So yeah, that was the only thing I'd say on that. There was something else that came to mind, but I've completely forgotten what it was. And they've got another play example here, which is good. Hey, lots of play examples, which is really good. And it says ending scenes and recovering countered sentences. Because a countered sentence cannot be used until a new scene, it is important to pay attention to the flow of play. While there is some inherent ambiguity as to whether a scene has changed or not, here are some good signposts that tend to indicate that the scene has changed. So the location of the story shifts, or a new space has been established. The characters begin working towards a meaningful new ends. The stories begin to focus on different characters altogether. The narrative dilemma has changed. A meaningful amount of time has passed. In the case of a counter sentence being the result of something breaking or being damaged, an extended sequence of the issue may be addressed or repaired. So, if anything, I know this is not the point of this particular game. It's that sort of teaching people how to edit. It's like, I should have ended this scene 30 seconds ago. It's going on too long. Okay, we'll call it to an end there. Yes, because we've moved the location, or we're beginning to focus on. We want to focus on something else just now. So I kind of like that description of it. It says, Determining whether a scene has ended is up to the group. Remember to think like storytellers and embrace the tone and foundational sentences that you set up in session 0. In a tense and dreary campaign about the toil of war, it may make sense for sentences to remain counted longer than those in a story about high-adventure swashbucklers. I think that'd be interesting to see if maybe if you have optional home rules about, like, again, maybe it's like 2 scenes that are counted for, or unless you do something deliberate to fix it in some way, like you need to take downtime or something like that. Okay. The spirit of the law. Perhaps the single most important rule for flavoursome and meaningful and memorable play is always say what using your means looks like. If you cannot describe how using a sentence would resolve the conflict in your favour, then you're probably not using it as your means. Paint pictures with your words and describe what your character is thinking about as they act, and bring Realis to life with your descriptions. Realist is a game of swift action and sudden outcomes. This is another reason why clear and dramatic intents are important, and why it is important that play always stays grounded in the fiction. Excuse me, my stomach was going then. Clearly time for lunch. If you play Realist by ignoring narrative stakes and focusing instead on repeatedly volleying sentences back and forth, the game simply won't work. Stick to the conversation until conflict occurs, then ensure the fiction is foregrounded during resolution. As a corollary? Or hang on. Let me get you back in. Corollary. A proposition that follows form. It's always one that is approved. Okay. Oh, have I just lost my... Yeah, I just did that, didn't I? That's gone away. Interesting. Let me reload my... There we go. That literally just happened as I was looking away. That's so funny. Let's try again. There you go. So funny. I won't do that again. It is imperative that sentences always stand. Allow the result of any conflict to stand unless circumstances, objectives, or involved characters change in a major way. When a means is invoked, it changes reality instantly, and the change should be respected. There are many sentences that will quickly bring a conflict to an end. What has happened might be repaired, but can never be undone. Yeah, that's again feels very much like an improv type thing there, like an improv principle. Accordingly, while scope and scale can be played with in many ways, GMs and players should be careful not to atomize a single challenge into many smaller hurdles, nor should they stretch a result beyond what any given means has promised them. And then finally, players and GMs should always be thoughtful about how much flexibility to use when interpreting sentences. Strict readings might increase the sense of conflict and struggle in the world, whilst looser or broader interpretations will allow you to keep momentum from scene to scene. Can the virtuosos, I always know the right medium to use, be stretched in order to find a channeler or clairvoyant, twisting the word medium into an alternate meaning? On the moons of my Realis, such fluctuations in language are common, but by the time you hold this tone, perhaps the moons have changed. This is also true for narrative scale and how tasks are broken up. In some stories where the focus of the story is grand and individual actions aren't the focus, it might be appropriate for an experience of death-dealing, to assassinate an enemy commander safe in their camp by simply using their +2, I always wield the brittle blade of mercy. But in a campaign more focused closely on beat-by-beat adventures of the band, you might break down such a large task into small ones. Be sure not to split every task into a repetitious gauntlet. Regardless of how you balance it, there will always be edge cases and grey zones. Discuss these cases in good faith with a single end, to craft your own sort of story you could hold in your chest like an extra heart. Oh, that's, again, really good sentence. I like that one. An extra heart, so like it's precious to you. I think that's quite good. And then another play example. Again, great to see all these different play examples. I can see another... Oh, look at that, beautiful. This. Hang on, let me zoom out. On page 30, we have the Pest Fleet, which is a lot of like what look like bugs or even like trilobites in the sky flying over. I mean, are they bugs or are they like ships? I don't know. And then it goes into detail about the different centers and stuff. I don't think we're going to look into it too much because I think we kind of get what they are. I think it's been really good at demonstrating what it is so far, but I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Another play example there. So I think it's like clearly gone into a lot of thought and a lot of research has been done on this as well. It feels like a lot of passion has gone into it and honing it as well. So again, I think if I was going to play this, then I would want to read. Obviously, you should always read the whole book, but I think definitely I would encourage the players to read the whole book as well. Normally, I would be like, don't worry about it, but I think I would definitely go into it. Maybe stuff on dreams as well. Well, obviously, it's going to show us some examples in the classes of stuff. Oh, there's another play example that goes over 2 pages, 10. But overall, there doesn't seem. I mean, there's a little bit of art in here, but I wonder if they're going to add more art to it. Because currently, like, normally I'd be like, there's a lot of white space in it, but actually I find it's really easy to read. And the layout's different on each page. Sometimes it's got like 2 columns, sometimes it's just 1 in the middle. They've got these sort of like, again, very simple in terms of sections or ways to demonstrate like different play examples. So I quite like that as well, and like lines and stuff. I just think that's pretty good. And then discharging and recharging tokens, again, fairly straightforward. Interesting. Oh, well, there's some more extra rules here as well. Priming a bond, so whenever a bond receives its third mark, both PCs and a bond may recharge their token. Interesting. So yeah, maybe I would have like a list, like a sheet at the end, which I'd give to players about like all the things you can do with things, because I think it's hidden currently in here. But again, once you read through it, it kind of makes sense. Some example of ephemera there, another play example, 14 play examples. I like how they've numbered them. I wonder if in future they would go to this, see this play example for more information about something. Penitent Knight says, I believe Austin said they are planning more art and more classes in the full version of the book, if I recall from some stuff that's said on their show. Interesting. Yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me. There's a lot in here already, though. But I guess because the actual game itself, the actual mechanics is dead straightforward, which is great. And how to do conflicts and brief, end of the session. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, like, again, it feels almost so simplistic and straightforward. I don't want to say that in a bad way. It feels like, again, like I need to see a playthrough of this, and I know there's some actual plays of it, so I probably wouldn't want to check it out. Then we have Beyond the Basics. This is another one of the other chapters here. Quite a beautiful, another great placeholder image here of like what looks like a broken sort of, I want to say like almost like a chest or ribs perhaps, or a structure of some sort. And it says the Unlanced Blister is the name of this particular moon, which is quite horrible. And also PC versus PC conflict, another play example. Maybe what would be nice perhaps is to have, like, because we've got the table of contents of the different chapters and bits in there. I wonder if having like play examples, because they're numbered like play example 1, whatever, but maybe if they are related to like PC versus PC, like maybe it's like play example 15, PC versus PC conflict, and then have them almost like, you know, sometimes you have like a table of illustrations. Maybe a table of play examples would be good. Like, we've got a load of them, and we're only like, again, I'm just flicking through. We've got page 58 just now. We've had 15 play examples so far. I think it could be, if you're like, I'm not too sure, I can't find it in the text, I'll go for a play example. And there's another one here, play 16 as well. Whoa, look at that one. And it's like almost like more specific ways. So it says here, there's one additional rule for conflict between player characters. Whilst a player can invoke their character's dream as usual, if both players do, neither will get their intention. So both dreams will be crossed off and both actors will leave the conflict spiritually spent. And then it says, such clashes are succor for the parasitic physics of Realis itself. But it's in a different, kind of like different like language almost, or different font at least. Interesting. Another play example. Great, love a good play example. And then we've got moon sentences, which again, I wonder if I go to the character keeper. you go. So, here we go. So let me just move this over a little bit so people can see it. So we've got here the band name and those sentences. The foundation sentences are already there, and then some moon sentences. Interesting. So again, maybe are you on one moon for the whole of the session? Do you move to different moons and then you can add more to them? Right. You can't be on multiple moons. It looks like one moon here, and then you've got the impulse, and then the different sentences there, and then different factions, some NPCs. Again, you would probably just duplicate this. Straightforward. Oh, it'd be good if I showed. Yeah, you got it. You see it there. Yeah, interesting. All right, back to this. Skipping ahead a little bit. Another play example, always good. Moon sheet. Yeah. Another play example. Illuminating failure. Interesting. Oh god, I'm stuck again. Need to go for lunch, I think. Tips for realization. Okay. Yeah, lots of detail about it. But I don't feel like, oh god, lots of rules and everything. I feel like, oh, okay, I can read this in my own time as needed. I don't feel like overwhelmed by all the discussion about it, and actually I think it would be quite interesting to read through fully. Maybe I'll do that off stream as well. Ways to end your story. Yeah, I guess what happens when you get rid of all your banned sentences? Is that the group's end? Like, do they break up? Do you get a new one? I don't know. Oh, look at that image there. The circuit state. It's like trees but covered in wires, and like almost like an individual who looks like a part android charging themselves up. That's pretty cool. And then it goes on to these different the 9 spheres, so the classes. So then I see, so we've got like 9 spheres. We've got steel, sorcery, spirit, shadow, sojourn, science, stagecraft, society, stories. SSSS. And then within each of them, you have 3 classes. Oh, 3 or presumably more classes. I think someone was saying in chat we have more classes. Oh, there's some more stuff. I may have missed you mentioning it, as I did listen on mute for a while, but the rulebook is meant to be diegetic in the game world. The game talks about there are options for either being on one moon or traveling between multiple ones. Okay. Yeah, no, I did look at it, like the idea of a wordsmith, like these people have found this or they're talking about it in some way. I don't know. It feels like, again, maybe it's going to be rewritten a little bit more. I don't know whether it's from the perspective of this words right. It feels more game manual to me personally, that like I said, like it's really well written, I think, and it's very clear. But it doesn't. But it sort of mentioned a few things at the beginning, and then it's sort of gone away into rules, and it doesn't feel like it's. It feels more like the game designer is talking to me now, which is totally fine. But it doesn't feel like this person who's not the game designer, the words writer's telling you. I don't feel that currently, but that's okay. Yeah, I see. The following chapter contains a fractional offering of what the final version will contain. Some classes mentioned in this document will appear in later publication. Interesting. Okay, there you go. So it's between 2 to 3 different classes for each one. Interesting. I wonder if more of them will come. I know someone's saying in chat that more of them will come, and then it goes into them here. Each one of them looks like to be a page. Gives you a bit of a description here. They've got the class sentences with the fleurons here to be like, here's the weapon of, describe it. Some example bonds. I would like some more, rather than 2, I would need like 3 or 4, I think. And then some example dreams. It is from the perspective of one word's right making the game in universe, or at least that's how Austin talks about it. No, I definitely see that. And I absolutely believe that's the intent. I'm not getting the full effect of it reading throughout, but maybe it's because I just think it's really well written. Other publications potentially being written from different schools of thought around story magic of realist. Yes, I believe somebody else was talking about that in chat as well. So, but maybe it's something that will be more obvious with the final version of it. Like I said, I think ultimately it's very good. How on earth would you pronounce that, friends? Sigist? I don't know. As always, and again, I know the words right is going to say like, well, however you want to pronounce it, and I'm like, that's great. I would need a pronunciation guides, especially for all the different factions. There's loads of them, right? Hang on, how many ones how many chapters have we got? Sorry, chapters. Classes. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 currently here, possibly more. I know not all of them are going to be contained in this document. Sai, I guess, Gis is the pronunciation. Okay. There's something there as a guide to driving communal narrative with propositional logic, but it doesn't feel like a game as a whole, like a game as whole to me. Just my opinion. No, I agree. I feel like it's interesting. There's something here, and we like it a lot. Yeah, I think like again, it's probably why it's like this is the Ashcan version of it. I like it's pretty. It feels like a really good work in progress, though. Moving over. Pedagogy, Zani. I was going to say, they're not in alphabetical order. Of course they're not in alphabetical order. They're in sphere order. Look at that image there. Wow, like ruins of folk looking up to the sky on a burning sun. And again, it looks like a horrific bug coming into... And then we've got the actual setting. And so, so this is where... there... So, Zinri. Oh. Zenri. So that's the example there. So yeah, so okay, this is where I'm like, the words right would be, this is what they're doing. This is the setting, this is what we're writing it as clear, rather than all that stuff, like a good, mostly 100 pages of rules, right? And stuff like that. That doesn't seem to me like the words right thing. This is what the words right is doing. At least that's what I'm saying. Like, they're back now. So, interesting. So again, we've got the setting here with a few more bits and pieces. Again, I would personally love a pronunciation guide, but I know that, again, it's just my own terrible pronunciation stuff on it. Maybe that'll be interesting when they do the full book, if we have more factions, maybe more in future, maybe more expansions would be on this stuff. And look, you see, you get people sentences, place sentences. Yeah, nice. I like that. I'm a big fan of faction play. I think there's always some really interesting things to it. But I'd love to see some more art on it, for sure, as well. Moonfolk. A limited atlas. Okay, interesting. Oh, there you go. Some really cool... Oh, see, that's quite cool. I like this. Yeah, these are the moons, the different ones. So you've got Danili, the purple flower moon. But then you have Trusk, the moon that once was. That's a great sentence, a description. I like that, having like the name and then like a descriptor for it. Pretty cool. The moon of long lost lace and lattice. Ooh, long lost lace and lattice. Great. Zinrin. Yeah, the 7th moon. And then customize it. So we don't even have that too much in terms of planets on this. Planets on moons on this one. I mean, it makes sense in my head that you'd have maybe customizable, like it talks about customizing moons, right? So you'd roll maybe on a table or something. But that's a great image there, the Great Void. Gorgeous. Where you have like a blue, almost like Earth kind of moon, and then you have all these other moons around it. Maybe that is going to be Realis, right? Now that I think about it, all these other moons and stuff, and then you have like a spaceship coming in. I wonder if in future maybe you'd have like, the band has, I guess because you're always going to have a ship of some sort. It doesn't have to be connected. You don't have to have ship sentences per se. That makes more sense. And then we've got an afterword as well on this translation. So a little bit more extra like context around it. Oh, there we go. Got some touchstones. That's cool actually. I was wondering if there was going to be anything like that. Even got music. Tabletop green. There you go. Dreams askew, dream apart. Avery Alder. Yep, absolutely. Fellowship. Somebody was talking about Fellowship before. I'll have to look it up. Electric Bastion Land. Legacy. A Life Amongst the Ruin. I've not heard of that one. Minerva. Magenta. And then UVG 2nd edition. Ultraviolet Grasslands and the Black City. Haven't heard of that one. I'm sorry. I'll have to check that out. And there you go. And then even video games. Games I've not heard of. Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor. Oh, I'm going to have to check these out. I've not heard of any of these things, but pretty cool. Oh, that's sweet, isn't it? We've got the playtesters and their bands, and oh, that's really cute. I like that. We're actually naming them in the Ashcan document. That's really cool. And all the different people Oh, I like it, and they've all got no names here. That's really good. And even the GM gets a kind of, so I can see Austin's name in there as well, but like all these folk in it. Oh, that's really nice, isn't it? Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, and that seems to be the end of this Ash Castle. I've got a couple of minutes left, so let's talk about this. What do you think? I really like the concept of it. I think it's really, hang on, I think it's really interesting. I can understand why it's an Ash Castle. It would have been nice if it said on the itch page that, obviously it is Ashcan, we know that, but it'd be nice to, hey, what's missing from this is that we're going to have some extra classes, there's going to be more factions, yeah, all that sort of thing. Like it says in the book, which is totally fine. But especially if you're, because it feels like, again, it's ready to play. You can absolutely play it now. Again, I appreciate I haven't read all of it. I kind of just skipped through quite a bit of it. I like the mechanics. Again, I feel like it's one of those things where if I was new to role-playing games and I wasn't confident in my abilities to create something, because it's very much player-forward, all of us, facilitators in that sort of way, and storytellers, that's what I meant to say. We need to make sure that everyone feels comfortable to like make big plays, but also have to be like, okay, what's your intent, and what's your means, and really ingraining that into people. And it feels like you could easily go in from what the Session 0 talks about these foundational sentences, being able to go in and go, hey, I'm just going to talk above the table for a second, what we're thinking to this, and then back out as well. It's nice to see a lot of play examples, like a good number of play examples there. And again, like I said, didn't read through all of them, but it's actually quite nice that you got them to show what it's like. Because I feel like unless you see it or watch the actual play, perhaps then you might not understand, or might be like, it feels too simple to be real, if you know what I mean. Maybe that's just my vibe on it, but I like the idea on it. Oh, I forgot what TLDR it was, but where you assign your own attributes onto a sort of mind mapping character sheet runs really parallel to this. Combining the two would be really something. Oh, I can't remember what that one is either. Interesting. Yeah, I can't remember. You remember anything else about that particular one to help me out? Because then, yeah, I think it's, yeah, it feels like the sentences stuff is interesting. The ephemera stuff is interesting. I love how there's a digital character sheet as well, so it just gets you up and running, that there isn't necessarily a character sheet here. It feels very easy for online play, which is always a big tick in my books. I think the artwork's really pretty and really evocative. I'd love to see more of it, and it sounds like there's going to be more of it. Alt text, always needed, I think. I think I'd like to see in those classes, I know they're meant to be like, here's some examples. I think I'd like to see a few more options for bonds. I always think like bonds stuff, I always like having three or four options rather than just two, just to give us an example of stuff. I wonder if this is sort of big. I can imagine there being like a soundtrack to this in the end. I think it's quite interesting. I mean, I think to me, and I know it sounds really silly, obviously we didn't get to it today, but I definitely would consider reading the full of this. I definitely would be interested to read more about the setting, because I think that's like ultimately the means and detail, all that sort of thing. I understand what the mechanic is. I don't necessarily need another 30 pages going over the rules in a lot of detail necessarily. I think it's good that it's there. I guess the only thing is I would like to make sure that all the rules I can easily find, like on that sort of player reference guide. So like if I'm using my token, what things can I do with using discharging the token in order to do 3 different things? Because it did feel like it was like hid a few of those away from it and then be like, oh, by the way, you could have also done this. And I'm like, that would have been really cool to know what that is. But yeah, I like it. I guess maybe would be nice to see an example of, like, we've got those examples of bands, like party stuff. I'd actually like to see more of that, or more plot hooks for things you can do, which I appreciate. Ultimately, this is a collaborative story game, right? So it totally makes sense that it might take a while to, it makes sense that all of it is player together. But I'd like to see some more just ones to just jump off the hook, as it were. And similarly, to have more moons as well, because we've got, I think we had like 3 or 4 here. It didn't feel like enough. I like the idea of the spheres. having those 9 spheres, and therefore each of them will have those 3 or 4 classes and archetypes. And I like the idea of these are broad archetypes and then narrowing it down to be specific. I kind of like that because it feels like that's what happens in RPGs as well. I guess my question is, I'm guessing you would all play different characters. Like you couldn't have 2 of the same. I don't know what there was. If it had barbarian, I think it was in steel, right? You couldn't have 2 barbarian who might be too similar. I mean, no. I mean, ultimately, as long as you're okay to make up and customize your own sentences, right? Then it'd be fine. But I think this would, for me, benefit from everyone playing different classes or from different spheres, perhaps. Could be quite interesting. Yeah, I'd be interested to see where this goes from here. Would I run this for... What am I running? I think I would. It feels really straightforward. I think what it requires of me as a facilitator, and it does mention this, I think, is that encouragement of facilitating and encouraging people to just go for it and making the story and being able to sit with it rather than like, I have this whole plan for you folks. You know, I could be like, I've got this moon I want us to explore, but ultimately it's up on the other players to do it. And maybe it is more conversation. It's more like a dance, this sort of ebb and flow. But not the end. Oh, thank you. Oh, you must have been looking for that. Yes, I know that there's all sort of like the hive-like things. I seem to remember that now. Yeah, that could be quite interesting. We also agreed, though, that Not the End wasn't a very good game in the end. I mean, it was very interesting, and then at the end we were like, wait a minute. Ow. So, yeah, thank you for that. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about now. That makes more sense. But there you go. That is Realis. I think it's absolutely worth checking it out if you're... Again, it feels like if you want to try something different for game night and one that's incredibly rules light, yeah, check it out. $15 for an ash can. I think it's absolutely worth it. To be honest with you, I think getting in on the ground floor, it feels like suddenly a game that a lot of people are talking about us now. Obviously, we have some fans in chat as well. I think it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here in terms of development. And yeah, I think I would play it for Where. Maybe I'll put it in the Where play. It definitely feels like a good one-shot game. And how to go on from there, and maybe just teaching people the importance of like not only the big elements of storytelling, but also editing as well. When we're thinking when a scene ends and moves on to somewhere else, would be quite interesting. Anyway, friends, I've just realised what the time is. I better get going. So, thanks guys so much. I very much appreciate you being here. I'm going to do all the quick plugs as always. Putting it all in chat, and then, gosh, trying to remember all my things. Which I don't... Why have I done that? Why has it done that twice? That's so weird. Really, what the restream is struggling at the best of times. God knows why. I was trying to think. What's it called? Codify. There we go. All right. Let's talk about it. I'm part of What Am I Rolling, which is a twice-monthly tabletop RPG one-shot podcast, which does lots of different interviews with RPG systems and interviews with game designers. I maybe we'll check this out. Good stream. Well, that's very kind of you. It was a bit chaotic, I appreciate, but glad to have you here, my friend. And I very much appreciate you checking in on the different my brain is completely gone. The different stream as well. I very much appreciate it. But yeah, go check out What Am I Rolling. We've just had our final episode of Savage Worlds release yesterday. Great. Really enjoyed that little series that we did. The talkback for that final episode will be out this Sunday, and then we'll be back to hopefully bi-weekly, because good lord, it's been a rush to get stuff done for that. Also check out the DM's Book Club, which is a weekly book club podcast where we talk about some Dungeons and Dragons and discuss how we might include them in our role-playing campaigns. I'm also 1/3 of the RP Geeks, which is a nerdy TTRPG show which showcases different RPG systems as well, and also has unique lore drops. We are back tomorrow, Tuesdays at 7 PM BST. Your other time zones may vary, with Urchins. Our Kids on Bikes hack that the wonderful Shamini Bundell is running with myself, Zachary Fortisgum, and the wonderful Falarin are going to be playing our little curious kids with peculiar powers. So yeah, come and join us for that. We will be back Wednesday. Oh gosh, time is a soup. back for Wednesday. Somebody messaged me? No, I can't find them. Wednesday, we're going to be looking at... less good. Big sigh. We're going to be looking at... sorry, not Wednesday, Thursday. Yes, Wednesday, Thursday. So we've moved this week's one to Thursday, so you're getting a double this week, fingers crossed. We're going to be looking at Invisible Sun, the primer for Invisible Sun, which has now finished its funding for the latest supplements or something like that. And I thought, well, why don't we look at the actual primer? And let me tell you, I don't like the layout. Layout's not very nice. But everyone always goes on about how great Invisible Sun is, and I'm like, okay, fine, I will get the free primer and look it up. So that'll be on Thursday, 11 a.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. British summertime. Your other time zones may vary. So that's going to be on Sunday, and then next week we're going to be looking at Harvest, which is like a folklore horror game, which looks quite fun. I'll be back on Wednesdays, and there'll be a couple of other ones we're going to put in. I'm going to schedule some more. Hopefully we'll be back on Wednesdays, because it's nice to have something in the middle of the week. All right, friends. All right, chums. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'm glad we got to this. I was really worried that we weren't going to get to it, and I'm just glad that we read something that was really interesting, and I'm genuinely surprised by it. Again, I didn't know what to make of it when we first came into it, and I was like, actually this feels really cool, and I hope, best of luck to Austin, and I hope they are able to produce a really cool book that gets fully, if it's kickstarted and whatnot, fully funded. I'll definitely throw some money into it as well. I can hear my phone going, so I better get going. All right, much love, friends, and I will see you on Thursday. Bye.